Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Greetings and salutations. Welcome back to Sacred Symbols Plus, a PlayStation podcast supplement. My name is Colin Moriarty. Today I'm joined by a very special guest indeed. He has wonderful hair. Brad Ellis, welcome to the show, my friend. Good to see you. How are you today?
I'm okay. I've had a cold for like 8 days and I'm on the tail end and I just can't shake it. And it's cutting into my workout schedule and it's very annoying.
Oh. What is your workout? Talk to me about your workout schedule. Like, what do you do?
Dude, I was on such a good run. I was doing 6 days a week, like for 2 weeks. Then I just got my cold. So, one day, chest, triceps. Then I'll do back, biceps.
Wow.
Legs,
do you do it at home?
No, I go to the gym.
Yeah.
I can't work out at home.
Interesting.
I need to get out
in the gym.
I know. I need to get out or I'll just be like more lazy, I feel like.
Yeah, totally. I understand that. Yeah, we have a home gym. We're lucky to have a couple, not a few, but a couple of extra rooms that we don't really do anything with. So I made one of them downstairs into a home gym. And
that's nice, yeah.
I probably work out 6.5 times a week. Probably something that would come out to like that. Like I'm in there can go 21, 28, like even a month where I don't go a day without working out.
6.5. So do you do like cardio, then weights or something?
Yeah. Well, what I mean by that is it would be like 13 out of 14 days or something,
Okay.
But like more, like it wouldn't be 6 out of 7. It would actually be on average more than that, more than 6 out of 7 times. No, I do. Typically what I do, let me think here. I would say 50% of the time I do a series of free weightlifting for 20 minutes. I do these this with them and
shoulder press
with them and go on the table and do all that kind of stuff. I literally just bought weights and then it came with like a little piece of paper that was like barely translated out of Chinese. And that's how I learned how to do all these different things. And then I do an hour on an elliptical doing high impact interval training.
That's good. Yeah.
So like 1 minute normal, 1 minute fast, 1 minute normal, 1 minute backwards, 1 minute normal.
That's hard stuff, man.
I have like really meaty. I was a hockey player, so I always had really big legs, and my legs are like definitely the best part of my body. And so I do that just to kind of like for the caloric thing. The machine says good. I burn almost 1,000 calories when I do that. It's not true. It's probably more like 600 or so according to my watch. And so I'll do that like half the time, and then maybe 30% of the time I'll do the same thing, but a half an hour instead of an hour on the elliptical.
Okay,
and then once in a while I'll do the elliptical without lifting. And once in a while I'll do like 30 minutes max on the elliptical, 20 incline, 20 power or whatever for a half an hour, which is like the highest of each, and do interval training on that. And that's like horrifying, but I do that to myself like once in a while, like once a week or so, I'll do that to myself. That's good, like worse than doing an hour and weightlifting. That's like way worse.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I don't know how you get like cardio for so long. I get so bored doing it. Time never moves as slow as when I'm on something doing cardio.
It's horrible.
It's brutal.
It's horrible. I don't enjoy it. I never enjoyed it. I picked up the elliptical 15 years ago, maybe. I used to run outside, which I picked up in college. When I was in middle school and high school, I played hockey and I was in great shape. And when my teams would go to the gym, I wouldn't even do anything. I would just be like, I'm not fucking doing anything. I'm not lifting weights. I'm a goalie. Leave me alone. I want to be spry and fast. And then when I got to college, we actually at Northeastern, we have a beautiful gym, like 4-story gym called Marino Center, but I never ever went to it. I would just run around there too in Boston. And then I moved to San Francisco, and that was when I started having difficulty because the terrain is so fucked. Even if it seems like it's flat, it's really not. So if you're going like one way down it and then you have to come back, you're actually just going uphill the entire way, even though it's like a really short decline. So I'm like, I got to do something about this. So ultimately I got an elliptical and really, really fell in love with it. Actually. I love it. It's like an amazing machine.
That's what I use too. Yeah. It's my favorite thing to use.
Yeah. It's good for your knees.
Where'd you live in San Francisco? Sunset? Was it?
Yeah. I lived in the first 2 years I lived in Daly City, which is like in the hills.
Yeah. I've been there.
And then the last 8 years I lived in the Sunset at 25th and Lincoln. So it's a pretty flat place because it's right by Golden Gate Golden Gate Park. But actually it's not. That's the place I learned it is I would run to the beach which is like 55th or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be slightly downhill, but you wouldn't really feel it. And then when you'd come back, you'd be like, oh shit, like I'm actually 5 stories below where I started, and I have to like slowly get back up this as I'm running back or whatever. And I'm like, I hate this.
Yeah.
You know,
man, I went to Daly City once. I remember it. I kind of liked it. It was very peaceful.
It's very nice.
But that was a long time ago. I don't know what it's like now.
I lived near, what was it, Mission and Geneva in San Francisco when I was in Daly City. Like when you would go up my street, it was South Hill Boulevard. You'd go up my street and it would say you're now in Daly City, and then my house would be like 10 houses down from that. So I technically lived in Daly City, but it was really kind of the outskirts of San Francisco, but not a very nice part of it. But the part of Daly City is beautiful. I've said this before to people, so people probably roll their eyes over the years, but I always love this interesting fact about Daly City. It is one of only 2 cities of 100,000 people or more in the United States where more than half of the population is Asian.
Whoa, really?
The other is Honolulu. Yeah.
Really?
Mega Filipino population and Chinese in Daly City. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
They have like a Jollibee and everything. You know, it's like so funny. Yeah, and I lived there. That was when I lived in the so-called gay house, which was fun. And
the gay house?
I call it, I was the only straight guy in it.
Oh, okay.
When I got my job at IGN, I had I wanted to get there as quickly as possible. So I basically just went on Craigslist. This was in 2007, and just found people to live with. And they ended up being really great. But it was like these 2 gay guys that owned the house. They were not a couple. They used to be a couple, and then they just became friends. And they were like in their 50s. And they really were just friends. Like, it wasn't some weird, like they really just were like boys or whatever. I have no idea like what that was all about there. But they were both these gay guys. And then there were 2 other gay people that lived there when I moved in. So it was 5 men, and only one of us was straight. And I had a guy named James who was gay James. He moved out. Another guy named James moved in who was bisexual, and he was bi James.
Oh man. It
was a really interesting place to be. See a lot of things, hear a lot of things.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And yeah, you become a man, but not like that.
Not like that. Ease down.
Anyway. Yeah, San Francisco is a wonderful place, though. So, yeah, I don't know how we got on that. Oh, I was curious about your
workout.
I was curious about your workout. I'm always interested in how people work out. I'm inspired by it because I don't work out because I like it. I work out because I honestly just don't want to gain weight. I mean, that is literally, and I try to it's good to move, you know?
Yeah, it is. You just feel better. I'm never like usually amped to work out. When I'm consistent about it, I feel much more like I want to do it. I get like more excited to do it, but when I'm starting back up, it fucking sucks. Like I'm lamenting going back and the mental battles of just getting my ass in there. But you got to do it, man.
Maybe you have did you get to take a COVID test? I never took a COVID test. I actually never, I don't know if I ever have it.
I've taken one, but no, it didn't. I've had COVID before and didn't feel like COVID. Just felt like a normal cold. Like my nose is just stuffed, and it's been stuffed for a long time.
I see. It's the palm pollen. Remember that used to be a really big thing down there.
I do have allergies, so it could be just kicking up even harder right now.
Yeah. I'm not allergic to anything that I know of, except for a specific kind of medicine that I can't even remember, like some antidepressant that I took that like threw me for a loop. But when I go to some restaurants that I think are fucking around, I tell them I'm allergic to mustard, so they don't put it on. All right. We're here today, my friend Brad Ellison. Of course, if you guys don't know Brad, and I'm sure you guys do, but if you don't, he hosts Summon Sign, our weekly game conversation about gameplay, about the playing of games, which is fun as opposed to the industry and all the rest. Congratulations, by the way. I haven't spoken to you in a while, but I'm really, really proud of you. I think you're doing a really great job with the show. I think people really like it. It has I read about what people think about our shows, and it seems to have like a very unanimous positivity around it. It's not like Sacred Symbols where it's like, oh, it's so fucking long.
Summon Sign's getting long now too.
Yeah, good.
It's just Colin some way.
Colin doesn't know fucking anything. He's such a fucking idiot. I don't see any of that kind of stuff really with you, and I like that. I think that's a good sign.
Oh, now it's gonna happen though.
No,
you just started it, dude. I'm fucked now.
Dagan says the same thing when I always say that about him. Like no one ever really says anything bad about Dagan.
How could you say anything bad about Dagan?
I don't know.
That's not possible.
I really, really worked hard to protect him in the beginning. Like, people have no idea. Dagan was a good podcaster in the beginning, but lots of ums and uhs and stuff. And I would meticulously edit every audio podcast.
Oh man,
to remove all of that so that people wouldn't bust his balls. And now you don't have to do that at all because
he's a pro. He's fucking great, man. I mean, podcasting's a skill. You just get better at it as you do it. Like, you know that, of course. And But honestly, it's been easy with LSM because everyone's awesome to work with, and the community's been great. So
Cool,
it's
man.
been awesome.
I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, the community has been great. I'm so pleased with your work. I already complimented you on your work at the live show, which I thought was awesome, which I don't know what Dustin's doing. Dustin doesn't work apparently anymore because the live show's not up yet. Maybe he's already on parental leave.
Yeah.
But well, that'll hopefully be live soon. People will see how well you did with that. I thought you really played that well. You fit very well. It's interesting. I kind of knew that you would, but I was really deferring to Dustin. You know, I'm a very lazy person in many ways, but I'm also like a very deferential person. If there are people in my life that I trust, I'm like, just whatever, dude. For instance, my mom's not going to listen to this, so I can say it's like my mom's retiring, and in June, finally, she's 73, but she like wanted to keep working. She's fucking crazy, and she like volunteers and does all. A very active woman, and I appreciate that. But she's retiring, and so we're gonna give her we're gonna like have a little party for her. And by the way, do your parents?
They're retired now.
Okay, what do they do?
My dad used to work at a print shop for like my entire life. He was a printer, like using a printing press and stuff like that. And my mom did like contracts at an architect firm.
Cool.
So that's what they did. Yeah.
Why did I even bring that up? I don't remember.
Because your mom's retiring.
Oh, right. Yeah. And why did I bring that up? It doesn't matter.
I don't know.
We really have to be here to talk about something. It doesn't matter. I'm sure there was a reason, but who cares? My mind's all over the place right now. I never, I don't often record episodes like this where here's what I basically want to do with you, Brad, today.
Yeah.
Is I want to talk about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm looking at my notes here. I didn't take notes as I played. I beat the game last night at like 2 a.m. So 13 hours ago from when we were recording. And I just took a few notes. I actually kind of just went and read around the game itself. I didn't really look at anything else around the internet. I don't have time to do that. And I also don't really want to hear what anyone else has to say.
Right.
It's like maybe it'll pollute what I have to say as well. And so I want to kind of just talk about the game because you had done people really enjoyed a very wonderful review discussion in Spoilercast. Right, with who's on that? Dustin,
Maddie, Gene, and Dustin.
Maddie, right? Great combination of people. And you guys talked about the game deeply. I think for like 3 hours, right? I don't think we're going to go that long here.
No. I don't think so.
I don't think there's any reason to, but I do want to kind of I know people are eager to hear what I have to say about the game, and I thought you would be a great person to accompany me. And I wanted to thank you for joining me. I don't know if I already said it on the air, but on a Saturday, I often record on Saturdays, but I don't expect, I don't really care what Dagan thinks about that, for instance, but other people, I like to, keep their weekends open. So I appreciate you taking the time to record with me today.
Dude, all I was going to do was play Stellar Blade today. So,
cool.
No problem.
I'll finally get to play another game now because I played Final Fantasy VII Remake and then Final Fantasy VII Intermission or whatever, and then Integrate or whatever, and then this.
Yeah.
So it's like 150 hours or so.
Yeah. It's a lot.
So it's time to move on with my life. For a little while. Okay.
Yeah.
So here's what I have to say. And I thought, by the way, you're great at asking probing questions. That's why you're such a wonderful host of Summon, Sign, and Game and things like that. You know the questions to ask. So I figured I'm the host of this episode, I guess, but I kind of want you to throw things out there and kind of lead me along if you can at times. And here's where I'll begin. Unless you have something you'd like to say to start things off, I'll begin here.
No. Go ahead. Let's hear what you have to say.
This is a really, really, really special game.
Yes.
It's unlike almost anything I've played, certainly. There's something unique about its confluence of maybe some light Ubisoft sensibilities with a very Japanese anime writing flair and performance in some cases, like with Yuffie, especially in others, with a very dire and serious story with wonderful characters. And this really, underpinning all of it, this really brilliant approach to the idea of remaking something to the point where I don't think, and I might have expressed this in the past to you, but it reminds me of things like Cuphead, which is a game I always use where I'm like, you can't really replicate this game. There's nothing about this game you can replicate. You could do boss rush games, I guess, and stuff like that. I mean, those exist, but any game that uses that animation style in that way is always going to be looked at as something like Cuphead, right? it was very similar to the way people looked at every fighting game back in the day, in the 90s with Street Fighter for a while, where it was like, and Capcom even get into a lawsuit with SNK or something over one of their fighting games looking like Street Fighter and stuff. So
probably.
So I just think it's a really, really wonderful game. There's nothing wrong with it except for there's too much of it. And I know people are asking and have been saying, like, please don't get into that stuff here. Like, I know you get it. You think it's too long. Totally. And I'm not going to. Really. I'll call out things that, like, the things that I think could have been cut. I think to make the game shorter. I spent 89 hours with it. And I did pretty much everything. I didn't end up doing the Gilgamesh stuff because I passed the point of no return. I kind of misread it where I thought I don't know why I thought this. First of all, I don't know why I thought Aerith was going to, like, survive. I don't know why I thought that. I just seemed
that's part of the beauty of that game is they are kind of stringing you along like that. Is she going to live this time, dude? Or are you going to save her kind of thing? It's great. Yeah. And
the scene of her praying and Sephiroth coming down, I was like, Micah was watching me play and I was like, yeah, I can't. It's like, it's a shot for shot remake of that particular scene. And it's just so awesome. Yeah. But the Cuphead mentality is just like, you can't, no one's going to be able to do things like this again. Like this sets a whole nother precedent for what a remake could be. And really it's a reimagining, and it is. And I guess what I'm saying is, to the Cuphead references, it's so unique and so interesting that anyone that tries to do something like this will be looked at as blatantly copying Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's not to say that people don't retcon things and don't, like, reapproach things and remake them, but not like this.
Right. Not like this.
And so, yeah, I think this is one of the best games I've played in a long time. It's certainly one of PS5's best games. And I've told you to, Brad, and I really do, we should all sit down and do this as an exercise, is to, like, really figure out what our top 25 or 50 games are.
That would be really hard.
Right. Yeah. My whole thing is I never reanalyze it. Ever. Yeah. With the exception of maybe games like The Last of Us Part 2. And I know Horizon would be in there somewhere in, like, a 25 or 50 list. But I'm always going to the same games. And there's just no way that can be true. I don't know why I've had such a hard time reanalyzing the deference I show to certain games and where I would hold them in relation to each other. And what I know about this game is that it would be in that high above, on top of that list.
Yeah. Yeah. Colin, I'm curious, like, as someone who grew up in the prime of Squaresoft and all that, this game kind of reminds me of that era in a lot of ways, of the quality and the ambition going on it. Did you kind of feel that when you're playing through it?
Yeah. It's a really interesting thing, because I think people lose sight of that with Final Fantasy VII, especially, in how I even lost sight of that. Being there and buying it and playing it when it came out and all the rest. I was in 7th grade. Was I? It was 7th grade. And there was something about how expensive Final Fantasy VII was and how it leaked through the screen, how different it was for its time. And you go back and look at it, and it's very quaint. The train scene, him jumping off the train and all that. I mean, it's, like, ridiculous actually looking, but it was so impressive at the time. And this is some sort of analog to that, where I'm like, this is much better than many of its contemporaries will ever hope to be. It's very similar to how I feel about The Last of Us, where both of those games where I'm like, these games are actually so much better than almost every other game that it's actually insulting how mediocre so many games are compared to this masterpiece. And I think that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just, it's of the highest quality in almost every way. I think that there are issues with it. I don't think it's necessarily modern looking in a frame rate mode. I think it looks like a really nice PS4 game many times, running at 60 frames. However, there are also scenes like the ending, which is pre-rendered, of course, but where I'm like, this is insane, like how good this looks. Although, again, that's just all about resolution and stuff, and you're not pushing the PS5 doing these pre-rendered cutscenes at all. It's really more about what the games do in engine. But there are moments of beauty in the game that are astounding nonetheless. So I don't even mean it as, like, an insult to say that maybe that would be something that would stick out, is it's not quite. You look at a game like Horizon Forbidden West or something, you're like, holy Christ.
Totally. You know? Yeah.
And my honest take on that is that I'm not entirely sure why other than immense talent and effort, why other companies can't do what Guerrilla, for instance, did in that game in terms of how beautiful the world is. And people are like, if that can run at 60 frames a second, you can definitely not only get a solid frame rate, but a better looking game in Final Fantasy VII. So yeah, there are things like that stick out, but not really. They don't really matter because it's not ugly. It's just not necessarily the most modern looking thing. I keep using the reference. Are you a Seinfeld fan?
Yeah.
Okay. I keep using the reference of the episode when Jerry dates the woman and she looks horrible in certain light. And there are shots of her where she's all like sunken and fucked up looking. Mm-hmm. And there are scenes like you can tell that the game just plays around with these, like how much is something pre-rendered or not? Is it even like in engine or whatever in some sense? Is it just happening as a cutscene with just dialogue boxes? And when you see characters in those situations, like you look at Cloud close over Tifa, it looks like that woman guy, where it's like, so there's like these different levels of fidelity and they get lost, but I don't think it really matters. Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, sometimes in that game, yeah, you see some characters and I'm like, especially character models, I'm like, ooh, a little rough right there. But then other times I see things in the game with the characters, I'm like, holy shit, this is like first party level quality. That's what you're talking about with Horizon. I always expect first party games to look the best just because they're so intimate with the hardware and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They're the top of the line. But I do agree with you that Rebirth is not like the most visually impressive game, but I think for what it's doing and like all the fidelity going around, like all the combat and all that stuff, it is very impressive. But when you're just looking at the surface, I'm not like blown away. Like Horizon, I was blown away when I looked at that playing it. But like during some of these fights, man, I was like really impressed what's going on. Mm. That's the kind of like classic Square shit I'm talking about. Like how good the cutscenes are, like during combat and transitioning, like that stuff. They are the top of the class and all of that. Think about like the fights when you're fighting someone in a boss fight and it transitions into a new phase and all the cutscenes that's going on there, Cloud throwing Tifa up on his sword or something like that. That's all top of the line stuff that I think Square excels at. And that's kind of been their MO for a long time. The cinematic action, I guess.
There's a level of silliness to it even, which I don't mind really. And I think again, I'm immune. Who was saying, it was Chris that was saying like Yuffie is so anime as to be annoying. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that doesn't bother me because I don't watch this stuff really. So
right.
I actually find her incredibly endearing in some sense and fun. And so I will say that there are moments when you're in like Cosmo Canyon and Gongaga and all these places where you have a lot of verticality and there are vistas and whatnot, where you can tell they've made concessions to make really beautiful backgrounds where like the background isn't really there, and that's not something you really see in modern games so much anymore. I mean, even in older games, you would just be sealed off, but there would still be like real tree models around and stuff. You just wouldn't be able to go into those areas. And in this game, it's not obvious unless you really look. They're like, no, we're going to give you like a beautiful sunset and it's going to be kind of done in the old sense. And it's going to be like over this. It's not like Skyrim where it's like, oh, the mountain is really there.
Right.
And so I'm glad that they made those kinds of concessions. I was wondering though, because you were saying about, first party kind of having that advantage. I would agree. And this is a third party game technically, but it's kind of like 2.5 party.
Yeah.
And you would think
close.
that maybe they would, like Sony would be involved in some way to try to not graphically, but just to get the game to run.
I'm sure they are. It's like, I think about, they're on Unreal Engine 4 still. So I'm sure Sony is helping out if they need it, but Square's been using Unreal Engine for a while now.
Yeah,
so
definitely. Since the 360 era, really.
Yeah. But that Decima engine, of course, gorgeous. Like you look at Horizon and Death Stranding, fantastic engine.
One thing I want to say about the game is that I really feel like it has emotional gravity. It's incredibly impactful. And there are really, really powerful moments. It's one of the things that gets me disappointed about the bloat in the game. There's a specific example I'm trying to think. It was like somewhere in chapter 12 or chapter 11. I can't remember quite what it was as something happened. And I had been dicking around for like probably 15 hours, like just doing side quests and whatever it was. And then you get into it and I'm like, damn, this is so sudden for me to have this like real poignant meaning. and then you're like, oh, I was just doing this other shit for no reason. Really, in reality, you would get right to this. There's some sort of incoherence with the way it's all presented that undercuts the emotional aspect of it. However, this is a problem, I think, in almost any game that gives you agency. I think that's why it's important that games like The Last of Us exist, because they just don't let you off the hook, really. It's not like, it's like, oh, go fuck around in Boston for 3 days and become a mercenary. It's like, no, just go to the next story beat so we can keep this like this heady experience going. I think that there's another universe, ironically, where this like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth really dealt with like kinetic movement from story beat to story beat that would have really been powerful. However, I think that like there is something built into the story itself where it's necessary to have downtime, like when you go to Calm and go to Costa del Sol and all of that, not only for character development, but just because that's actually what the story demands, because there are real life events that must happen. So it's not like a game where it's like, oh, it actually takes place in 14 hours or something. It's like, no, it could conceivably take place over several years even, but it doesn't take place over that, but it could. So yeah, I don't know.
Well, let's talk about, let's talk about the length thing that you're talking about, some of the bloat. Let's go over some of that. What was really bothering you about the length? Is this, and I'm curious about the length thing. It is a long game, but I'm curious if a lot of it, if the part that you played Remake and Intermission, then Rebirth back to back, maybe affected that in some way.
Maybe.
Because that is an insane thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I did it. It's very similar to Spider-Man. When I played Spider-Man and Miles Morales when they came out, but when Spider-Man 2 was coming out, I played them back to back to back. And I'm really glad I did, because I got it all. Like, I just, I'm pretty sure Donkey put up a video recently. I haven't watched it yet, about like why no one remembers video game stories. And I would like to watch that, because I feel like I'm kind of in that. I don't know if you feel like kind of entrapped by that as well, but I'm like, I really don't remember shit. Like, for instance, I platinumed Wild Arms 2 last year, which is a game I really loved in high school. And I was playing it and I'm like, I don't remember any of this. Like, I don't remember any of it. And I know I played and beat this game because I remember playing it. Like, I remember I had the strategy guide and I was out, but I don't remember any of the fucking game. And so I feel like, I don't know if that's because I'm a pothead or I'm just getting older, or if it's because we are just inundated with product. I don't know how to keep any of it straight, where you can like ask me dead up questions about big games I played and platinumed. I'm like, I don't even really know.
Yeah.
What. Like, we were talking about Hollow Knight recently, and I'm like, I don't remember anything about that game. I mean, I remember playing it, but I don't remember what it's about. What was that, like fucking 400 games ago or something? I have no idea. So I'm willing to take that risk to give myself the proper predicate for what is going to happen in the new game, even though I know they do like a previously on. It's not totally sufficient. And it's funny, man, because putting in the work is rewarding. So I'm not saying that there shouldn't be, and I just said like 10 minutes ago we weren't going to talk about this, but I guess we'll get into this.
I don't know. We're talking about it all, baby.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. It's like, I have multiple problems that I feel like people are getting, in our audience, are getting a little frazzled about it. I don't think I'm saying anything too crazy about what I mean by this. So I'll try to present it in the most cogent way I can, which is, you're given a certain amount. I saw someone actually talk about how like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's a buffet. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's a product. It's a lone product. It's a dish, actually. The game store would be the buffet. It's a horrible reference. Like, I don't even understand that reference. So you're presented with this like dish, right? And there's like a ton of garnish on it and all these kinds of things, but it's all unfamiliar to you. Some of it's under foil and like under the other food and all this. And like, you have no context. And the golden path in any game is the developer saying like, go through and do these quests A, B, C, and D, and E, and you'll get through the game. And I totally respect that, but I have never in my life played games like that. And not once, never. Right. Put up Zelda, I'm going to get every fucking heart piece in it. Right? Go to Castlevania 2, game you and I both love. Half the items in that game, you
love it.
Oh, you don't love it.
Remember, I'm on the other side. You and Dagan love it. I don't love it.
Right. You'll recall then, nonetheless, half the items in the game, some of the whips, like the daggers, like you don't have to get any of it. But I would never beat that game without doing all of that stuff, because that's the experience. And the only way you can make the really true value judgment outside of like trusting others' criticism is to experience it yourself. So I find the idea of saying like, just ignore it, that's insufficient.
Sure.
It's like, for someone like me, that's just simply insufficient. It's not the way I'm going to play. I don't even understand why you would do that. it would be like, I was trying to use a TV analogy, and Dustin's like, it's not quite accurate. I'm like, yeah, maybe you're right. Because I was saying, like, maybe it's like watching a show I love, like Mad Men, but telling people to like skip around.
Yeah,
it's like, no, you watch it all.
It's like listening to an album, you know? You listen to all the way
something
through.
like that. But I was even thinking about
tracks.
I was even thinking though, Brad, I don't know if you can relate to this about like what you like to read or whatever, but like when you read nonfiction, like I read a lot of history and stuff, a lot of endnotes and footnotes and stuff like that, not only about references, but explaining things. Or if you read like an annotated Bible, right? Mm-hmm. It would be like just reading those kinds of things, but not the annotations or like none of the footnotes and having no real reference point for anything. So I appreciate people can literally buy a copy of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and fucking chuck it off their roof for all I care. And that's the way they want to play the game. It's cool, man. Like, I'm not telling people how to do it. I'm just saying that it's not
just
sufficient.
You. Yeah.
Right. Why wouldn't you want to see it all? And then why wouldn't you want to ask yourself, if you're going to do that, how can I deliver all of this meaningful content in a way that makes more sense, that's respectful of people's time? Just like people would say, like, this movie's 20 minutes too long, or this TV show didn't need to be 14 episodes this season, or whatever the case might be. I think it's quite similar. And the only way you'll really know is to do it. So you can't like make the assumption. And I'm really glad I didn't, because one of the things that I think, I feel bad for people that just Golden Path Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. You missed most of it.
You missed out a lot. Yeah.
Like, that's the weirdest part, is that these people are proclaiming that they played the game the way I guess it was supposed to be intended, or a way that was at least annoying to them, but they didn't really play it. I mean, you missed that. I was surprised and shocked. It wasn't all meaningful or whatever, but just the end of what would happen with some of these quests and some of these lines, where it's like, what? Like, oh, this person's back randomly. Like Kyrie's grandma, right? Like, that was just like, you would not see that. You know, whatever her name is, the angel of the slums or whatever.
Slums, yeah.
She's a character from the first game. Or like, there's
Leslie with his whole thing.
Right. Another thing. That's great. That's a great point. It's like, you just wouldn't know. So it simply is a catch-22 for a person like me, where it's like, okay, I'm going to do it all because I want to see it all. But I'm also going to have word on what you could have cut out of this to make this more efficient. And I think that there are like really simple things. The game is overwhelming with mini games. Now, you don't have to do them. Some of them you have to do to like just get the lowest tier to move on. And I got into some of them and I thought a lot of them were fun, but they're really massive distractions. Like, why are you adding bloat to your game when you actually literally have a casino where you could just put everything and go there to do all of these things optionally, as opposed to having the gym in the middle of the wilderness? And Costa del Sol's games make some sense too, because it's like a carnival atmosphere or whatever. But I just think that you can nip and tuck here and there in such a way, just like, get rid of this. This isn't important. The audience doesn't need to know this, whatever. And I think that the longer a game gets, the more it compounds. So if you're getting to 40 or 50 hours, cutting off 5 hours is a big deal, you know? And I think you could go even deeper with some games than that. So when you're getting to 80, 90, 100 hours, I do believe it's like 10 to 20 of these hours didn't really need to be here. And a lot of it is busy work that is optional, but you just don't really know, right? Like, if you don't go to the end of Queen's Blood, you don't see the stuff with Vincent.
Yeah.
That's like probably actually Vincent's biggest part of the game, when you really consider how little he's in it, you know?
Yeah. So one thing I'll say, Colin, is, so you talk about the gym. I actually kind of like the gym being there and seeing jewels in there, because it is just a little narrative thread. It's a little like reward for you if you go out for there. So a thing I like about this game is, in a lot of open world games have, and people get very upset about, think about Final Fantasy 16, is the side quests aren't meaningful enough to them. There needs to be some reason to do them. There needs to be some sort of payoff. So they have to make these side quests valuable, that players want to do, and they want you to go see them. They have to give you some players a reason. You, on the other hand, which I totally, because I'm like this too, is like, I just want to see what the game has to offer. But most people aren't like that. A lot of people will just skip this stuff. But once they learn that it is important to do, if they want full context, anything, you got to give them a reason why. You think back to people, they talk about The Witcher 3 all the time and stuff like that. Another massive game, humongous game. And people always remember the side quests from that game. It's because they are impactful and meaningful. So I think 7 definitely really leaned into that, which I really respect also because, I hear a lot of people just saying they don't like side quests in a lot of games because they don't feel important or meaningful. So I think it was a smart idea to actually do that. But I will say, I think some stuff was there just because, not necessarily to pad it out, but they just wanted to make the regions spend more time in the region. Like all the stuff with Chadley, there is a reason to do all that stuff there, but that is more of the tedious kind of stuff like that. But also, you think about Final Fantasy VII, and a lot of people remember mini games from that game.
Mm-hmm.
So they went ham on mini games. They didn't need all of them, but most of them are so short too. You could just get through them immediately. So I don't mind spending a minute. Like literally, you're spending a minute shooting targets or whatever on Costa del Sol, and that's it. That's all you got to do for the 90 hours of the game. So that stuff doesn't really bother me, especially when I hear Yakuza fans talk about that stuff. Just like, what?
Yeah, that game. Those games are intimidating to me for a similar reason. It's same like things like Shenmue back in the day or whatever. Where it's like it's very menial in some sense, which I think is cool. I understand why, because this has come up so often, so it seems like it's an important part of the game to me, and it really isn't. It's a notable part of the game to me, but it's not an important part of the game. I still think it really is extraordinarily great. I just actually think it would have been stronger,
sure,
if you just had a little bit of an editorial eye towards just nipping and tucking a little bit, because you know what, the gym thing I thought was interesting in that it's cool. Like you see all the characters, everyone's coming back. The fucking rapping announcers are back, and like everyone's back, and that's cool. But it does feel things like that risk feeling small universe. It's kind of like Star Wars, where it's like, yeah, does everyone really know everybody like this? It's kind of weird. Isn't this supposed to be like a huge place where there are like lots of people? So we would have a core people, and of course you want to have those touchstones and those oh yeah moments and those odes to the audience that pays attention to the little things. But I think that if you do that too, and I think they kind of got towards that line where it's like, okay, but there's more people in this world, right? And we're meeting a lot of them, but why are we seeing so many familiar faces? It's almost too easy. But that, I think, in some sense, adds to the ethereal nature of the game. There's like something dreamlike, almost doesn't make sense about it. And did you get that vibe too? Like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy VII is a very serious game in a lot of ways, but it's also a very goofy game. So that's just part of the game to me, is that kind of just dreamlike state you're talking about. That's just the way it is, and it's always been like that to me.
Well, there's like a parallel though for me, Brad, where it's like in the first game, you as the player know that the party is being watched at all times by Shinra, and it's all happening too easily. And they're not, and you're kind of supposed to be aware of that because it would be immersion breaking otherwise. It's like, why doesn't anyone? There's no cameras in this building. Like no one knows you're in the elevator. No one knows you're on the street. No one knows you're in this town, wherever the fuck you're going. And I think that in some sense they took it in the next game and in some sense just went in a I think they should have just broken the game open a little bit more and leaned into what makes the world so big. And so anyway, yeah, go ahead.
No. I think that's a good thing, but I also just am remembering like we still have another game to go. So they're keeping stuff in the bag, stuff like that. You can't reveal everything quite yet.
Right. And there are things that didn't happen that should have happened. Like we haven't seen Wutai outside of the outside.
Wutai was optional in the original, but they're gonna make it big in the next one.
Right, but it is optional, but so is Yuffie. Yeah. But when you have Yuffie, then you assume.
Yeah, her arc's not over yet though.
Right, that's true.
It's gonna end in the third game, whatever it's gonna be with Nero and Sonon and Wutai and all that stuff.
It's pretty cool. I'm a critic, so I'm criticizing the game, but in reality, there's so much to love about it. And I wrote
it's got problems. Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree. Like some of the stuff, I think if you do everything in the game, you're going to get some drag at parts, like, because you're spending so many time in these regions and you're like, well, I want to see the story and all that kind of stuff. Like there was definitely moments where I was doing stuff where I was like, wow, I just really want to see the story but I really want to just do this stuff to do it in case I miss anything. But You know what I did though is later on I was just like, I'm just gonna do the story that I want to do because you can come back to any chapter like once you beat the game easily. You can just hop back in it. So if I missed anything, I can just go back and do it. So I was thankful that at least that is an option. It's very easy to do stuff that you missed. Like you were talking about that sense of urgency. If you're really feeling that, like I got to do this kind of thing, you can, and just come back later and do whatever you want to after.
Well, because I have to know. Like and I find it's so interesting. I don't know if the data is a driver for companies like Square Enix in the way that they design games, because they're kind of trying to make the perfect role-playing game in a lot of different examples. So they're going to make it the way that they think they have to. But when you look at the trophy stuff for Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth, you just realize, and it's really more pronounced with Rebirth because the game is so much bigger, it's just how few people are really doing a lot of the stuff in the game. Yeah. And that lack of curiosity is so shocking to me by such a huge part of the audience. I know that you shed a certain amount of people. You can even see, like, you'll shed like 6% before the fucking first chapter ends, right? So,
yeah.
And I think it's at 32% or whatever for completion now of the 14th and final chapter. But I'm always so surprised by that. And I know it's because we're in the games industry. We play games, we play them to completion. We like them and we enjoy them. And a lot of people are much more casual, which is totally fine. But it surprises me that games are so dense and so few people are willing to put in the legwork to see them. And it makes you wonder why then they're like that, right? Like to what, like that in and of itself might show a certain stubbornness, in my opinion of.
Yeah. To me, you're just missing out on a lot of what the game has to offer.
Yeah, I agree. What's the point? That's so, anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. If you're spending your time with the game, you should like make an effort. It's one thing if you just don't enjoy that, I guess, and you're just like, well, I'm just here for the main story kind of thing, which is totally fine. But I think you'll miss out on a lot of the game because the game is more than just the main plot line.
But let's talk about things that I really, really like, which is pretty much the rest of it. And it really starts for me, Brad, with the cast of characters. Maybe it's just I'm a little soft or whatever, but I don't like inter-character tension with protagonists in a lot of things where...
You don't like when they're fighting and stuff?
Yeah, I like protagonists that are like cohesive and get along and then have something to solve. I understand that there is an enormous amount of storytelling across mediums where that is the case and they're great. It's just, for me, it's easier for me to kind of get into it if everyone's getting along and I don't feel that tension, at least in a game like this. And I like that the characters like each other, care for each other, have emotion towards each other. And you can even kind of quantify that in the game with the different choices you make. Although I don't know if you can ever really read where that data exists. Maybe you can. Maybe it's on like the status screens or something. But
you mean like your reputation with them or whatever?
Yeah.
It's just like that little picture, I believe.
Yeah, like the smiley face.
Like little face. Yeah. There might be more, but that's how I always used it.
So I thought everyone's performances were great and thought the writing was really solid, and I just really liked these characters, and I especially enjoyed the inclusion of getting a little bit of Vincent in there. It was awesome to see him pop up because I was wondering if he was going to show up or not, knowing that I assumed he would eventually be in the game. Maybe in the third one you would hold off on that, but they didn't make him playable. Right. And it was cool to see Sid, and you kind of run into Sid in a totally different way.
Yeah.
And he's not playable either. I do wonder if both of them will become playable because obviously...
Oh, they will. Yeah, the next game 100%.
Yeah, I would assume so. You're going to shed Aerith, obviously, so there's going to be room for one more. And you have Kate Sith back now, so you'd have one additional character. But yeah, I kind of liked, actually, that they didn't add him to the party. I don't think you needed too much more. I could have even seen a reality where Kate Sith wasn't added to the party. I'm glad that the character was there and that you could mess around. But you could even imagine where they pared it down enough where you were dealing with like basically the humanoid characters minus Vincent and Sid. So yeah, I just wanted to go shout out for what I think is just a really wonderful cast of protagonists. And in addition, I think the antagonists are amazing too, both in your kind of gray Turk antagonists and then your more black Shinra operatives. Yeah, and the board and all that. I just think across the board, the characterization and the writing is top notch.
Yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy VII's cast is like the most iconic cast in Japanese role-playing games, bar none. There's a reason they're so beloved because people love these. Like they're so Final Fantasy VII is so popular. So because people love these characters, man. They're really well written characters. Their relationships are really well written. Like I really like Cloud and Tifa's relationship in this whole game of them kind of like struggling and Tifa being the one to ground Cloud a lot of the times when he's kind of flipping out. And I think that's really good. And Barrett kind of being like the one keeping Cloud in check in a different kind of way where like Tifa falls on the Mako and Barrett like slaps him. He's like, get your shit together, man. It's like he is like that kind of rock that Cloud needs right there. And I just think all the cast is wonderful. And we still got a lot to learn about a lot of them. Like a lot of their arcs aren't over yet.
Right.
You know, we got Barrett's arc, a lot of that, which was great with dying and everything like that. And Nanaki's, or Red's, but still got a lot to go. Like we haven't seen Rocket Town yet. Right.
Which you would have already seen when you have gotten Sid. And then you have a fight there with Palmer, I think, right? Or something.
Yeah. And that's where you escape on the tiny Bronco.
Right. So everything's out of order. And which is cool. And that was bound to happen as things get further away from the origin of the story we knew. But I dig the characters. I dig the antagonists. I'm a little confused about Glenn. Like,
Glenn's a new character.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I don't know who that. I was like, I don't know who this is.
So he was a character designed for this game, a new character, but he's in Ever Crisis, which is like that mobile game that came to PC later. He's a former soldier. I forgot how many years ago it is. People are speculating he's Cloud's dad, which kind of hope it's not true. I don't want to know who Cloud's dad is, but he's a former soldier. And they actually talk about, do you remember Wedge, like the flashback or the quest line in Cosmo Canyon about Wedge and everything and the other Avalanche members?
Right.
There's like that. They show like that scene they show like a flashback scene, a remake where they're storming the tower or Shinra headquarters.
Right.
And they bring up like these characters named Matt and Lucia, who are like high up now in Avalanche. Those are also former soldier people or whatever that were in Ever Crisis. So they were like Glenn's comrades essentially.
Cool.
But Glenn's whole thing with Rufus, you know, their whole past, I don't really know anything about that, except that he got shot in the back by Rufus at one point.
Yeah,
we'll dive into that more in the next game.
Yeah, I was a little lost there. I was like, I don't really quite understand.
Yeah.
Also, Glenn? I mean, that's the bad guy's name?
Well, think about this. I remember when I heard, in Final Fantasy 16, when we found out the main character's name was Clive, I remember people being like, Clive? Clive, and now no one bats an eye at it.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
I mean, Glenn, not as cool of a name, you know. I think of just Glenn Danzig the whole time every time I hear his name. But I know a Glenn,
so I think of him. But yeah, it's such a everyday name. I'm like, okay, well, Glenn, the bad guy's Glenn, I guess. And yeah, they added Roche obviously to this arc as well, and he's back in this as well, and he's super fucking weird and homoerotic.
Yeah.
So
everyone's erotic for Cloud.
Yeah, seems that way, and he doesn't care about any of it.
No.
So frustrating, for me. It's like, just make a choice.
Who did you get on the date?
Oh, and Gold Saucer?
Yeah.
Barrett.
She got Barrett?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you do Tifa, they actually kiss. So you get something.
I don't know how I got Barrett or why. I mean, I obviously had a good relationship with him, I guess, but I don't know.
Dude,
I got Barrett.
Gene told me, so when he was doing it for review, he just blitzed through it. He did the main story only, he told me. And he got Barrett. No, I think he got Kate Sith, Vincent, and Sid. All three of them.
Interesting.
Yeah. I didn't even know that was possible to get like 3 people.
Yeah, it was just me and Barrett.
That's awesome, dude.
He comes and wakes you up or whatever, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So wait, who did you get at the play then? Who was like the love interest for Cloud in the play?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking it. I don't.
So
remember.
there's 2 dates.
Okay.
Or whatever.
Maybe I'm getting it wrong then.
You know, when you do like the Loveless play and everything like that.
That was. I thought that you dressed up in costumes, right?
Yes.
That was Barrett for sure on that. And then
that was your here, like with you?
Yeah, like
or
he was wearing armor.
Did you fight him?
Yeah, you fight him and Red 13.
Who was the other person there?
Red 13 was the other one there.
But no. There should be 4 people.
4. Oh, and there's people in the audience.
No, okay, so it must be different. Because for me,
I think Yuffie and Sid were in the audience or something.
Yeah. So everyone's in the audience, but for me, it's like I fought Barrett and Red 13.
Right.
And Tifa was with Cloud also with me on stage.
Yeah, I don't remember. What could it be that no one was with me?
Maybe. I mean, that's maybe possible.
I don't know.
That's fucking hilarious, though. I love it. If that's true, that's awesome.
Yeah. People will know. But yeah, I might be confusing the 2 dates or whatever. Again, because I was doing so many fucking random things in the game. But that is my choice.
Right.
All right. So how about a few other odds and ends here? Mm-hmm. Chadley,
yes.
I didn't mind him. I got to be honest. Like, I didn't find him.
I liked Chadley in the first game. I think he's fine. He does talk a lot, and I could see him getting on people's nerves, especially if you do all the side quests at one time. But I like Chadley overall, but he's a chatty guy for sure.
Yeah, I like how he shit talks Mai or whatever all the time.
Yeah, he like made Mai and he just gets frustrated at her all the time.
And like because she's always talking about them and we or whatever, and then he's like she's like taking credit for the different things he does, which is funny. I could see it getting annoying, and it did get annoying. I mean, I guess the annoying little gameplay quirk is that when you do things, he almost always has something to say, and you can't skip it. So you go and do one of those crystals and do the little triangle thing, and then and then it's like and like pops up, and it's 10 seconds, but I can see that being compounded over many instances of it being annoying. But I was going in expecting to be mega annoyed by him, and I just am not. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But
dude, I hope he is the one to kill Hojo in part 3. That'd be amazing.
Yeah,
if he does the final blow or some shit, that'd be awesome.
He's cool, and I like the whole. See, what the thing that open world games of any kind, the best ones all feed everything into each other and don't have these disconnected instances of why you're doing things where you're just doing them for no reason. And I think that could be fun too. Checkboxing or whatever is totally fun, but I like how everything feeds into it. So the things you do for Chadley give you more information about the world or give you a better chance of beating a summon for the summon materia, and you get the points which develop materia with Chadley, and you do the enemy intel and can get more of the simulation battles, and it's pretty cool. Like I think that they do the proto relic thing. I think too, this whole subtext of doing the proto relic, which is in and of itself like 6 side quests that leads into this weird Gilgamesh thing that in and of itself leads to a bunch of fights and mini games like Fort Condor or whatever. And I think that it's very harmonic. You know, it's it all fits together. They make each other better, and it's like a domino effect of the things that you do. And I think that that's really, really nice. As you and I both play a lot of games, you play more games than I do, but it's actually surprising how few open worlds really worry about that. Usually it's folded into like character upgrades or these huge upgrade trees and all of these things and just earning points, which is in and of itself fun. And they have a little bit of that in this game with the folios, but I think that I like the whole Chadley connection, the interconnectivity of doing the quests, and even the satisfaction of just filling in those yellow dots. There's something very pleasing about that. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, totally.
Chocobos.
Yes.
I just think the baby chocobo leading you to the defunct chocobo stops are so cute. How can you not follow them?
Yeah, you love them. You gotta pet them.
Oh, they're wonderful. You know, and I like when they find Cloud Jr. or whatever in that one.
I think Cloud Jr. So good, dude.
Yeah, that they realize that the chocobos baby chocobos look like Cloud. I think it's so cute. Yeah, so
that's like a thing throughout the game. All the chocobos they're talking about look like Cloud.
Right. So I love those. I love the touchstones in Final Fantasy. Obviously, the chocobo touchstone goes all the way back to Final Fantasy 3 or 2.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 2.
And which I didn't know. I think it might have even been 2. because I think we talked about it on Knockback Dagan and I, where I was like, I actually didn't realize it went back this far. And, you have your Moogles. I'm not crazy about, so that's a great example of something that didn't need to be in the game. Right? Like
the Moogle stuff.
Yeah. Like that's just a really, like, you want a great example of something that's just like, cut this and get 3 hours of your life back. There you go.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I did like the story about them, though. They talk about the Moogles, which was the arcade game from the original. They were talking about like Mog or whatever and his partner meeting, and then like those are their offspring. That's like the mini game in the original 7 that you play with them.
Very meta.
And I did like the payoff, though. I thought the payoff was just goofy and totally exactly what it should have been. Just Cloud turning into a Moogle for a little bit.
Right.
And going, oh, Koopo, just flying around and shit. Koopo Po, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I could have gotten those few hours back, but I think
it was, you're catching these fuckers like every time in the same area. It's just like, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like I was like, this isn't really even particularly challenging.
No.
So even when it got more complex, it's like, it's not like, all right. So, but I did take umbrage with the Moogle designs. I feel that was a common thing when the game came out. And I'm like, yeah, the Moogles are kind of fucked up looking. I'm not entirely sure why they made them like that.
They kind of look like that in the original. Like if you look at Mog in the Chocobo summon, you see Mog on it. They're not quite as koala-like, but they don't look like the ones in 16 and stuff like that.
Right. Or like 6. I mean, that was
exactly.
But that's what I kind of like, smooth.
Yeah,
and
I love the smooth model,
you know,
but I'm okay with them trying different stuff with the Moogles. But I do like the classic the most, of course.
What did you think of Queen's Blood?
Loved Queen's Blood.
Me too.
I'm not even a huge card game fan. Like in games when there's cards, I'm usually just like, I don't really want to do this. But I got fucking addicted to this game. I think a lot is because I did like Triple Triad and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And what was it called in 9? Like Tetra Master or something? I don't know what it's called in 9. But I got addicted. One is because the cards are just cool, man. Like these monster cards. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dude, I fucking want these. I want to unlock all these. They're awesome. And like random mid-PC cards like the Shinra employee card you can get later on, all that stuff. I think just like tying in the narrative, a lot of actually Queen's Blood was tied in a lot. Like not only was like the main quest line, but there's also the parts like when you're on the ship to Costa del Sol and the tournament and all that stuff. I just got hooked, man. I just ended up loving that game. Yeah,
I did too. I thought it was a lot of fun collecting the cards, buying the card packs and doing all of that. I did realize most of the cards are pretty useless, really. It's funny. At least in my opinion, I would make different decks, and I basically used 2 different decks. I used this one deck I made pretty early in the game, and I probably got 2/3 of the way through the game with it, and then I just made an entirely new deck because I wasn't even like updating it at all. Just kind of because I don't know that I was even playing it mega properly as much as I was just trying to occupy as much of the board as possible. And just
that's like the strat early on in the game,
right? And then by the time you get to the last one, where the player basically cheats, and you have to really. Like think deeply, and I actually had a look for that last fight. I was like,
I did look at a deck.
Yeah, I looked up too. Like what deck should I use?
Yeah, because I was like, I'm fucking out of my league right here.
Me too, and it was funny. It was a series of cards I just didn't use, so I was like, I wasn't even going to look at these cards anyway, and it all ended up working out great because a lot of it was about erasing cards and putting cards on top of cards. I wasn't really playing that way until that last thing, and I also must admit that I cheated during the like card puzzles to get the puzzle, like to get the cards. Like you could do puzzles almost like a chess. Like if you play chess and you go into a newspaper and there's like a chess puzzle and it's like, mate in 3 or whatever. Did you do any of those?
Yeah, I think I did everything.
Yeah. So
pretty much for Queen's Blood.
I wasn't going to figure that shit out. So I looked up those solutions because I'm like, I'm not sitting here and I needed some of those cards to get the high quality deck that I needed for the final boss. But I did. Yeah. I did like Queen's Blood. I liked the story. It was strange. It was very melodramatic, but it was cool. And yeah, there's a cool payoff. And I think that's what I would want to reiterate about a lot of different things in the game. It's that it's impossible to make a value judgment in a game like this about time spent and tasks done when you just don't know who's going to pop up behind any specific rock you look at, and that it's going to be important to your experience. So I do think even though it is so big, it is worth playing it completely for those kinds of things.
I think if you don't want to do everything in the game, I think at least doing all the green quests are worth doing. Like maybe not all the scanning materia and stuff like that for Chadley. If you get burnt out on stuff, or like the monster challenges, at least do all the green like side quests, because that's where a lot of the narrative stuff is.
Chadley did have one challenge that I didn't do that kind of threw me off, because as combat simulations would come in, I would just do them and get them out of the way. And there was one where you have to fight these enemies, but you have to stagger one of the enemies first before killing the other two. And it's like almost impossible. I was like, Jesus Christ, I don't know how to do this. So I got a little caught up on some of those late game things.
Yeah. Do you know the rewards? Like if you do all the VR stuff?
No.
So you can unlock Zach and Sephiroth in VR mode and play as them. Oh,
that's cool.
Yeah.
And do they have their own set of...
Well, they have their own... I don't know all their challenges, but they have like, their moves obviously are all different because he plays them early at parts in the game. But yeah, it's a cool little reward. I wish you could like play as them in New Game Plus or something like that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, Sephiroth, the rumors of playing as him, reviving Aerith or playing as Sephiroth. It reminds me of the Final Fantasy VI General Leo playable rumors as well. That's really cool. I didn't know that. I don't think I'm gonna. I was telling Michael.
Oh no. Yeah, you don't have to do that.
I was telling Michael like I really do want to move on at this point, but because I'm not going after trophies. There's just certain trophies I'm not going to get in this game, like the beat everything on hard. But I was like, I would like to see how. I'd like to do the Gilgamesh stuff and just see how much further I can get in a few of these things. So I think Gilgamesh. I'm gonna bounce in and out. I think now over the next week or the weeks to come and just kind of clean some of this stuff up. But I definitely need a break from.
Oh yeah, like I haven't. There's still a lot of stuff I have to do, but I'm like, I'll come back. I'll play some other games and I'll come back. What do you think?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, finish your thought because I'm gonna move on to something else.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I just don't know how to play games like that. Like I have to. I can play a 2D game and a 3D game at a time, but it's hard for me to mix games up. And then I know that when I put things out, I'm like, I'm never going back to this. So it's important for me to do as much as I can as soon as I can. But anyway, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what did you think about Gilgamesh being in this game? Not in the original. How did you feel about him?
It's cool. I didn't really understand
why he's there.
Yeah, like it's funny.
That ties in when he finishes his stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I just don't have the context.
He's like from he's like from a different dimension. Dude, it's cool when he goes away, he talks about the 4 warriors of light. So it's just like, oh,
sick.
Nice.
So yeah, I guess it suggests that the multiverse is like
some sort of thing. Like he can travel between dimensions or whatever. At least him. Like
that, he could pull other Final Fantasy games in.
Yeah, too. He could, because he appears in a bunch of Final Fantasy games, so it's possible.
Right. So he's like a transcendent figure.
Yeah, he's some sort of special.
Yeah, I don't have all the context yet. So, but yeah, I would like to get back to that because I got to his island. You go to that like labyrinthine cave and then you get to his island and you meet him. I thought I was going to fight him right there. And then, he has you like you do
the summon challenges. Oh man, some of those are tough.
Yeah, I didn't even do them immediately because I didn't have all of the summon materia. I still need to get 2 of the summon materia.
Oh, okay.
So I wasn't even able to because you have to have those as like tools to unlock them or whatever. So that's actually what set me off from because I was. Yeah, that's what set me off. I was like, I got to beat this game. I don't have. I went and did the Gilgamesh thing, and I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm here. I saw this all the way through, and then I was like, oh my god, there's a whole nother step. I don't have time for this.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so, I really, really like combat in this game, and I think that it can go without saying that this game is really fun. It's not different in most respects from Remake, so people will be really familiar with it. But I just think that it's a wonderful marriage of menu-based combat and action.
Yeah,
it's really, really, really well done. It's so fun. The characters all feel really different as well. Yeah. And I like that the game, I often criticize games for putting options in where they don't really force you to ever experiment with them. So there's like, oh, here's 6 machine guns in Call of Duty, but only 2 of them are really very good. It's like, and you don't really experiment with what could make the other ones better or interesting for you to use. And the game does a nice job of kind of circulating between characters and at different points forcing you to use them all as your active character. The only frustrating thing about that for me was just having to equip everyone with materia. Like there's not enough materia to go around unless you really start buying a lot of it because you don't want to have too much of the same materia. You want to upgrade the materia you have. So you're only going to, I think you're going to have like 3 or 4 healing materia maybe, and you're going to have 2 or 3 lightning materia and whatever. and having to constantly go in. I could see I happen to have been serendipitously set up for the last 10 phase fight against Sephiroth or whatever, where I didn't have to, but I could see someone getting into that fight and being fucked and having to actually go back and start it again because they're not properly equipped. You know,
I actually had a lot of materia. I bought so much shit. Like everyone was ready to go. I'd swap a couple things out here and there.
But how did you manage that with leveling them all up and all of that and making sure that? In other words,
like a lot of their materia, they would level even if you're not using them, like a party member.
Oh, I was under the assumption you had to use a party member with an active materia. That's interesting.
No.
That would have differed my approach. I probably made the game more difficult for myself.
I could be wrong, but it doesn't take that long. I'll just say I never got to the point where I was like, fuck, I need to level up materia with this person or something like that.
I was
always capable.
But I did notice the difference of having, like, you're forced to use X, Y, and Z characters. You have two maximum cure materia and then a lesser cure materia or whatever. Or like I had like one raise materia and stuff like that. I just didn't get, because I wanted to just focus on it leveling up, but I didn't know that people were.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make some calls like that. Like, so for what I did is, I think of it like the 2-team structure or whatever. Like, I'm always gonna have one of these characters in my party. Like, so basically I knew who my main party was going to be for most of the game, which ended up being Yuffie and Tifa and Cloud for most of the game. So I had a lot of healing and stuff on. I actually had Cloud and Yuffie doing both, so I actually had flexibility. But, if you have Aerith with you, you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have healing stuff on her. Or Barrett could be doing that. I just had certain people laid out where I was like, they could fill this role if I need it anytime. So, because the parties do get shaken up, so I made sure I always had something ready to go. I wasn't left out in the dark. And even if you don't have the highest level compared to someone else, you're fine. You don't need the highest stuff. Unless you're playing on hard mode, you probably do.
I really like the mixture of the equipment system, the materia system. I mean, this comes from the original game, of course, but I think it's very well done. Because they reinvented the wheel so many times, right? With magic systems and class systems and all of the rest. And the iterations on the magic system, I really like the Esper system in 6 a great deal, and this is a kind of a more blown out version of that. And so I dig it, because by the time they get to 8, especially, they kind of start fucking around too much with things.
Right. The GS system.
8's really, I tell people that I find 8 to be broken, actually, in some sense.
You can break 8.
Because I was explaining this to someone recently that because of just mere level scaling, the game actually encourages you to fight as little as possible. I mean,
yes,
it's very weird. You can beat Final Fantasy VIII very quickly, actually, because you don't really want to fight if you can help it. And I find that
I was
really
not
strange.
a fan of that. Yeah, I was not a fan of that system.
Me neither. And the draw system and all that. So I think 7 was kind of where before they kind of went over the edge, and the materia system connecting it to. So instead of having an Esper per person, the Esper adds like these statistical things. You're learning their spells permanently. That's the one thing that I think Esper's does really cool, is constantly cycling them out. It doesn't encourage you to keep them on you unless you want to use
it's like a job system, essentially, the Esper system. It's like Shiva is your black mage or something like that.
Right. And but it's also like Final Fantasy V's class system, specifically in that you're permanently imbued with the abilities, right? As opposed to having to be part of the class or whatever. Yeah. So
So you're encouraged, to do them all, which I do find really fun. I love that stuff. And
comparing the percentages too. Like, you might have one Esper that has fire at 5%, and you have one that has it at 10%, meaning that you'll learn it, twice as quick, basically, using the other one if you're just patient. Or you can learn these really high level spells at 1%, like really, really slowly. Oh, that shit's so good. So I think that's still perfect. But 7 was cool because I didn't really do much of this in the game, but like the whole addition of these blue materia that allow the computer generated players to do certain things without having to be told to do them. I never did that because
I didn't do that either. But it's
like a waste of space to me.
I think it's for people that like to play as like 1 or 2 characters max. Like, I want to play as everybody whenever I do it. So,
well, yeah, I want to have that fine control too over like what everyone's doing. I don't need anyone to really be doing.
It's to make it, I think, less overwhelming for some people.
Yeah, I can see that. And I thought that was an interesting addition.
Yeah.
And I just like, I remember playing Final Fantasy VII originally when I was a kid and not even really understanding the line drawn between certain materia where you put them in those certain slots and they augment each other and all of that. Like there's a pretty deep well of customizability in the materia system, which I like. Plus you have the summon materia, which is cool. I do think that maybe another thing that could have been cut that I wasn't really a fan of was the whole folio thing. Like,
oh, the system?
Yeah, I would have preferred
to remakes.
Yeah,
I prefer it to remakes.
I would have preferred a more straightforward, if they wanted to do something like that, a more straightforward upgrade tree or skill tree or whatever. This reminds me of one of the there are certain games that have skill tree like options, right? Like the folio system here, where I'm like, I don't give a shit about any of this. Like you need to spend 50 points to get to the thing you really want or whatever, you know? And I'm like, I don't care. I want to have like this thing that's building and I'm getting something all the time, or just don't give me that at all. I feel like they really didn't need that. I felt like it would have been enough to have just the equipment, the materia, and because item transmutation was kind of the new addition. It's like you have enough of the customization, the items. It's like, that's good. You don't need to go too crazy. I think it's distraction personally. So it's not bad.
What I think was good about it is because a lot of this stuff revolved around synergy abilities and stuff like that, and skills and limit breaks. So, when you get synergy abilities, those are a completely new thing in the game, So it slowly introduces them over time instead of dumping them all at once upon you. I think that was a good idea to do that. And I really liked unlocking the limit breaks through there and like changing some of the fundamental stuff of like, like Barrett's like charge thing, it would charge more and stuff like that. I thought those, like a lot of the upgrades are really meaningful where I was like, dude, I do want these kind of upgrades.
In a game like this, I like more of a +5 spirit, +10 luck.
Well, they had some stuff like that.
They had hit points, specifically in MP, right?
Yeah, they had some stuff with like luck with Kate Sith and stuff like that. But so, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a minor quibble. And just in the sense that I just don't think this game needed another system underneath, like just a basic leveling system. I feel like it went a little too hard in that regard. Not for any real reason. It replaced,
like leveling up weapons individually in Remake, which I greatly prefer in Rebirth, because in Remake, I got real sick of like swapping weapons all the time and then doing their trees individually. It got really tedious. So this just kind of made everything much smoother for me.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they'll change something about this in the next game too.
We'll see. So yeah, I do think that though everything was pretty well married from a gameplay perspective. Love using the different spells. Love, buffing out with MP up and HP up. I saw that you could, I didn't really look deeply into it, especially because I don't really play like this where people like mess around with these really mega builds or whatever. But I saw you can use one of the HP MP materia and like really fuck around in like this major way with powerful spells. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of crazy shit you can do. Like once I beat it, I started looking at all that kind of stuff because I wanted to see what people are doing. People came up with some really crazy stuff, and I was like, damn. That's really smart, actually. I wish I thought of that.
I probably wasn't playing the game very effectively. I mean, I've rarely ever died or had any problems. I died twice.
You're playing just fine. Yeah. You don't need that stuff unless you're playing hard mode.
Well, right now, but what I was gonna say was like I barely even block or anything like that. Like I just hit square to attack, launch abilities. Like I have the whole like I don't know what it would be like. Pause X square where whatever button press it would be to get to braver.
The hockey thing,
like to just like do it over and over again, basically.
Oh, okay, braver's really good. So
and so I barely would block. I would roll around and like get out of the way. Or whatever. But I found that you didn't really need to play it like in any sort of defensive way for the most part. And so
for like a lot of the optional fights, you definitely want to do that more. Like a lot of the ones you didn't do, like the summon ones, where it's like you're fighting 2 summons at one time. And the Gilgamesh fight, it's like you definitely have to like re-examine your kit again.
Yeah, well, I'm probably gonna have a hard time doing them at all, So we'll see what happens. I think I'm level 49 or whatever, so I don't, or 50.
Level cap is 70, I think.
Yeah, I think you get a trophy for getting to 70, and I'm like, man, I couldn't even imagine. I guess New Game Plus would get you there, but in one playthrough, I don't even know if you can do it.
Oh yeah, you can get there fast in New Game. There's some spots to farm.
So yeah, I thought combat was really fun. I prefer to play as Cloud just because I feel like he's the most versatile, and I also just had him up with a lot of like powerful magic, and it was quite balanced.
Yeah, he's the best.
But I also like playing as Tifa to get the pressure meter up. She's really, really fast at doing that with her punches. And Barrett, obviously, for aerial combat, which they really introduced early in Remake, and his usefulness there as well. I was less fond of using Yuffie. You have to use her in parts of the game, obviously, but you have to use her in the DLC as well. So I did know how to play as her, but I wasn't crazy about it. And then I really don't like using Red 13 at all, and I don't like using Kate Sith at all either.
But, I love Kate Sith, dude. I loved playing as Kate Sith.
So talk to me about who you liked, like what you thought about the.
I mean, Cloud is my favorite just because he is the best. Like, I just like playing as Cloud the most. I do love Tifa. I think she's super fun. She's really fast and nimble, which is awesome. And I really like her ability to, when you stagger someone and they're like the stagger meter slowly draining down, you can do those abilities with her to increase the damage that people will take while they're in that stance. Yuffie, I think, is really fun, like putting the different elements on her shuriken when you throw it and being able to do that with her ninjutsu. And I really liked her doppelganger ability where you bring out like a little wood puppet of her too. She'd do stuff with you, and the kind of like the defensive move where you like do the Bushin thing and teleport away. I really like that ability. Dude, Kate Sith was so fun, man. Fucking rolling the dice and you just like do his luck abilities to see what you get. And you can like set him to self-destruct. You just bounce off him. Dude, he was so fun, man. I love Kate Sith.
He was cool. I mean, he's cool. I really, really liked the way they interpreted him. I think the interpretation of the combat generally, which comes from Remake, but I mean, has been enhanced greatly here with new characters. But it really adds an entirely different depth to the game that never existed at all. I mean, Final Fantasy VII was very much a turn, an active turn battle, but turn-based, menu-based thing where everyone had different weapons, but it was basically attack and magic and whatever. I mean, it didn't even have like the Final Fantasy VI tool system or anything where like there was any differentiation between characters like that. They just had kind of a predilection towards magic or physical attacks or whatever. And so I think that Square Enix deserves a lot of credit for really, really nailing it. I mean, I think that it feels like a fighting game in a sense where you have a whole cadre of different kinds of characters that will play differently and will suit. My very like gung-ho game style is just great for Cloud because he's so fast. He can take a lot of damage. He uses magic pretty well. If you focus on that, I had him pretty balanced, like I said, where I wasn't so focused on physical attacks because I think his magic attacks are so important too. But I liked my party to be Cloud, Aerith, and Tifa, and I would have Aerith use prayer or whatever, or pray. Like that to me was like one of the most important materia. I
barely used it.
Oh, really? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
It's like
it's good. I just barely used it.
It's like Cure 3 for everyone or whatever they would call it, Curaga or whatever,
I didn't use Aerith that much. I think Aerith's fun and like pretty good, but I was having more fun with other characters.
I liked her. I liked that I would give her healing magic basically. And
she was great for that.
And offensive magic too. But then I would occasionally switch to her and just start firing her staff at people to just build up her meter. And then I would just go back to my character and leave her for when I needed her, so like, because prayer uses 2 bars, which is its downside or whatever in your ATB. So, I really, 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 really like the combat. You had brought up Kate Sith before. I had a question about your interpretation. The game is more explicit. I mean, it's really openly explicit if you're paying attention that Kate Sith is Reeve.
Right.
But the character, I was thinking about this. I'm like, there must be many people that still have no idea who
that Kate Sith is Reeve.
Yeah, sure. They show it in his office. So there's like a quick scene of that, but there's still no acknowledgement of it, really. Like that.
Yeah, I don't think they know that Reeve is. They know he's like a Shinra guy. But I don't know if they know who Reeve actually is, though.
But the audience doesn't either, right? Like, if you didn't play Final Fantasy...
No, the audience... I mean, they show it throughout the game.
They show him... Well, I guess what I'm saying is, that from my interpretation, like, there's that shot of him, like, with a Kate Sith doll in his office.
They don't... Reeve doesn't go, like, I am Kate Sith or some shit, like I'm Batman or anything like that. But, yeah, they don't outright say it, but they make it, like, pretty clear, I guess, or like they let you know that something's up with this guy and this cat.
That character adds a great deal to the ethereal wonder of the game, where it's like,
Yeah,
what the
it's
fuck
some-
is this? And like,
Yeah.
why are people interacting with it so normally? And
Yeah.
it's
Well-
strange.
Yeah. I mean, well, Cloud's walking around with a giant fucking sword on his back everywhere. No one's batting an eye at that shit or anything like that. I don't know. It's just a really weird world, and everyone's used to it. Used to weird shit.
Yeah, they are. It's awesome. And I wish that there was more information about the world itself in the game, like a deeper codex. I was actually, in preparation for this, I went and kind of just turned the game on, and I never looked at any of it because I was like, oh, I'll read it like when I'm done. It's not really important. Now, as you were doing stuff for Chadley, you'd be like, oh, this intel is unlocked in this thing. And I was assuming that there was going to be some sort of deep well of documentation that I was going to be able to read about these places. And there's a little bit, but not very much.
Region, yeah. Well, you learn a lot about like the world kind of near the end of the game, and with Genova and the ancients and all the history and like the humans and all that stuff. I think a lot of that's going to be in part 3 because the weapons are going to play a big part in part 3. So I think they'll dive more into that kind of around then.
Well, I should be more clear. What I'm saying is that there's no repository of in-game information, like, for instance, in Final Fantasy 16, where...
Oh, yeah, it's not like that, no.
Yeah, which I guess what I'm saying, I don't need it to be quite like that. It's not even that complicated as 7, so, like, you don't need it to be like that. But what I'm saying is like, I would have loved to read 1,000 words on Junon. I would have loved to read 1,000 words on Avalanche. I would have loved to read... And, like, there's just a little bit of that, but not very much. And yeah, so that's more what I was saying.
They don't tell you too much, yeah. So there's not like full deep dives, yeah.
So what were some of the locations that you most enjoyed in the game? I have to say I was really smitten with Gold Saucer and their interpretation of it, but I really liked Costa del Sol too. And again, just the kind of airy weirdness of it, right? Like what is going on? Like, this world is dying, like it's fucked up, but there's this seaside resort that's run by this company. There's this casino where everyone's spending their money and ignoring everything, I guess.
A lot of people don't know exactly what's going on with the planet, kind of thing like that. They're not seeing it like our characters are seeing it.
That's true, but they exist. And this is something you and I talked about, I think, on a previous episode that I think is really heightened in this version of Final Fantasy VII, although I think it was the same in the other one. It just didn't play through as much, is that this world's really fucked up. Like, these people have experienced insane trauma. Like, the wars between Junon and like Shinra and Wutai and all, like, has left everything completely fucked up. So I'm not necessarily saying that they would know that the world is being sucked of its life force or whatever, but that, like, it's surprising how bred in circus it is. I guess that's kind of the idea. It's like Shinra's making these distractions, and not with Gold Saucer so much, which they don't really have anything to do with, but with Costa del Sol specifically is built by them specifically. So as like they like apparently I think they annex that land and then like build this resort there and invite people to go to it or whatever. So that's more what I'm saying, is that it seems like fiddling while like the city's on fire kind of situation. It's like,
I think that's going to be more of part 3 stuff. You'll get more of that when Meteor especially shows up. So I think a lot of people just kind of ignore what's going on in the world right now in that game, or just ignorant about it. But we'll dive into that more in the next game.
What did you think of the intro with Zack, Aerith, and Cloud? Where they're immediately getting into the alternate universe situation. I mean, what's the scuttlebutt about this in like the community? Are people digging this?
I don't really know. I think people are into it, but I haven't dug so deep into like everyone's theories. You know, there's so much shit out there. Like, if you want to investigate people talking about all this stuff, I'm totally cool with it. I actually really like the intro. For one, just getting to play Zack is really cool. And I'm really happy it just picked up right after where it left off before. And the thing I really liked about it, Colin, is so you see everyone, like, it's like they failed escaping Midgar. This whole other world, whatever's going on right here, you see everyone's like essentially dead. You see like Red 13 like die in a helicopter crash, and Tifa's like laying dead. But the only person you don't see is Cloud. And they say that there's someone on the run with a Buster Sword. So we never see Cloud from that exact world that's going on there. So I was into all that. And, you know, just tying Zack and everything, I love because I think Zach's a great character. So I was all about it. Wait, what do you think though about all that stuff?
It's the most special part of the game, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely like the biggest mystery so far.
The Bioshocking of Final Fantasy VII in some sense has been, this is what I was saying kind of at the top of our conversation, Brad, is this is an incredible idea.
Yeah.
It just is. Like, it's just a really incredible idea. I don't think that this was what I would love to know what CyberConnect and like what the original Final Fantasy VII remake was going to be all about, and if it was the same kind of thing, or if they.
I doubt it,
because I think that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it was CyberConnect. It's hard to say because we don't know what was happening there. It just felt. It seemed like to me it felt much more disconnected from the original team. Especially when like Nomura didn't know he was going to be fucking directing that game or whatever. It just seemed like very much like in a silo kind of thing, CyberConnect doing their own thing. So I don't know if it would have been like this from a narrative perspective.
It would be wonderful to know if just where the whole notion that you're going to like, if I were in the boardroom, you know, when this was being greenlit or whatever, and it's like, this is so, I'd be so excited. I'm like, this is such a wonderful idea. This is so, everyone's remaking their games and faithfully remaking them and maybe adding some a little panache to them, like Resident Evil 4, Dead Space, the ones that we've talked about recently. And they're very faithful and people want to see how faithful they are. And it's like, we're not going to be faithful at all, but we're going to make it seem like it's just, as I understand it, I have to go back and look. It's like, no one had any idea that it was going to be this before the game came out.
I had no idea.
And again, that's where
all we knew was that some things would be a little different, pretty much. But none of us knew it'd be like to this scale.
Right, like that there would be some sort of faithfulness to it. That it wouldn't be, in other words, the exact opposite, which is it's the very foundation of the game as it's being presented in this trilogy is like the breaking down of Final Fantasy VII. The basic way to say it would be to like the multiverse it. Kind of, but really it's kind of a lame way of putting it. It's like saying it's challenging determinism. It's about fate. And I think that's and the powers of fate and the active omniscience of fate and the manipulation of what could be and the supernaturalism behind Sephiroth. I think Sephiroth is so much more interesting in these games than he is in the original.
I mean, you just get a lot more of him and more of his insight.
Sephiroth doesn't even show up until you leave Midgar, which I think is kind of cool. And that's classic villain shit, obviously, right? Like it almost seems like it's about something else. But he's so well done in this new one. The voice acting, I think, and the delivery of like the very silent way of speaking and stuff is very, very well done. I love the scene in the beginning. I guess it's chapter 2 when you see the flashback at Nibelheim when it's like destroyed. And I always loved that scene and visualizing it in my head, especially with Sephiroth going through the books in the basement and all of that. And so seeing that rendered, in modernity was amazing. And I love just how he goes crazy. The game heightens the betrayal he feels in some way so much better, and like the rage he feels and the space between that he dwells in by the end of the second game between these different situations. Dude, that scene where you fight with Zack in the last boss like is so emotional and so crazy, and then he falls back away and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Like I was sad like when Aerith, I can't believe they did it. I was like, no, like that she survives actually, but that like the movement between worlds is like kind of fluid now, and it still ends up.
She still dies.
Right. Like there's a determinism in it. Yeah. And I was like, this is so good. This is so emotional and sad. I was teary-eyed, I was like, no. Like, I don't really want Cloud to be with Aerith, but I wanted to have the option,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Dude, I love the part where you're like walking up to her when she's praying and the whispers are trying to have Cloud kill her or lift up his sword to do it. Then he just blocks. Dude, when he blocks the hit from Sephiroth, I like stood up. I was like, oh my God, they fucking did it. Then it does the flash and you see the blood. And I was like, oh shit, dude. This is why I love video games.
And
that's the kind of shit I'm into.
That ethereal world of like them going back to the flowers in the church, and
yeah,
I was like, oh my God, I'm like having a nervous breakdown. You know, at the end, like it's just so good, and it's I think it has a 92 on Metacritic. I went and looked.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
it's pretty high praise, and I don't always take those people seriously, so you have to take them with a grain of salt as you'd like, but I'm glad that people kind of saw this game for what it is, which is,
for what it is, yeah.
As I said at the top, one of those games that is head and shoulders above its contemporaries, and that there are just not many games like going like this. And Square Enix, there seems to be this, we were talking about on Sacred actually, that there seems to be this, I don't know, this storyline about them that they're failing or that they're not doing well and that the games are selling softly and stuff. And what I see with Final Fantasy VII Remake and Intermission and Final Fantasy 16 and Dragon Quest 11 and this and some of their other AAA fares, like the benchmark of this sort of game, they are fucking killing it.
Square is like in a golden era again. They're like back in such a great way. Like Final Fantasy is in such a good spot. It's in the best spot it's been since like the PS1 era. Like you had 16 a year ago. Now you have this. It's like crazy.
And I don't know what people's expectations were about what this game was going to sell. I made the case on Sacred Symbols, not that I'm trying to run interference for Square Enix and their sales, but it's like, it's a sequel to a game that 38% of the people who played the original beat on a console that's in its 4th year, not its 6th or 7th, actually. Yeah. And the install base is like half as much. It's like, what did you really want? I don't give a shit, frankly, how the game sells. As far as how it helps Square and make more of these kinds of games is important, of course. But I just think people have this like this idea that these games are just not resonating or not doing well. And I'm like, these games are Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth are probably 2 of the best games I've played in years.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just saw this. This is like a fairly new stat. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth remained the 4th best selling game of 2024 year to date.
Nice. That's great.
Game. So it's not doing horrible.
No, I don't know if it's going to come to any other consoles. I really do feel like
PC,
PC for sure, but Switch 2 as well.
Switch 2 would be cool. Yeah. I don't know. Sony seems really close with this one with 7. It feels like they really want to keep 7 as PlayStation.
Something certainly changed along the way because it was originally supposed to be a timed exclusive. We know. Yeah,
and Final Fantasy VII is unanimous with PlayStation, so maybe they want to keep that. I don't know how long they can keep that, but they certainly seem like they want to, which I think is a good idea for them. They should totally do that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you asked me a while ago what was some of my favorite areas to see in the game. So Gold Saucer is definitely one of them. I loved the haunted house. I thought it was so good how they recreated it, and like the bellboy or whatever that comes down hanging scares the shit out of Barrett. So good. I actually really liked. I know it's kind of annoying to navigate in some ways, but I really liked Gongaga because Gongaga was an optional area in the first game, I believe, and it's very small. So it was really cool to see it fleshed out, and to see Cissnei there from Crisis Core was really cool. I was really happy to see her there, and she recognized Cloud. And Cloud does not recognize her at first. But if you do a side quest, you get to ask her one question, I think, and you can pick a couple of different things, which I really liked. And it was really cool to get that scene with Aerith and Zack's parents and stuff like that, asking about Zack. And Cloud calls Zack like a bum, essentially, because he thinks Zack ran out on Aerith, and Tifa and Aerith get mad at Cloud for saying that. She's like, so good. You did the side quest too, where you get the chickens, right? You collect the chickens and fucking end up eating them at the end.
Yes.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah,
I think
woman's
PETA
that's why
tweeted about that.
That's why we do this kind of.
Yeah, I think PETA actually tweeted about that, which is really funny.
Did they really?
Yeah.
Weird.
And I just loved Red 13 was so sad about it at the end, howling. Man, dude, the stuff with the Gi, man.
Yeah.
That's like all new.
Yeah.
Like them not being able to die and return to the planet. And like with the black, dude, that stuff was so cool. I loved all that stuff, man. That was such a great addition, getting all of that.
It is cool. It all feels very natural and not too retconny or anything like that, because it's supposed to just be one of many possibilities. So I think that they did a really, really nice job with the game really up and down. I mean, I also just say that the music's incredible.
Oh my God. The Dogs soundtrack, the dog song when you escort salmon.
Yeah.
The bow, wow, wow, bow. Ah, so good, man.
There's that dope metal song when you're doing some of this.
Dude, the guy that sung on that wrote into Summon Sign before.
Oh,
he's like a fan of
he's I want to say a friend. I don't want to make it seem like we're close or anything, but I've talked to him behind the scenes a few times. I'm trying to remember his name, but I reached out to him recently. He lived in Japan for a while, and he had music in like Tekken and a few other things.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I was like, that song is really, really dope. There was a lot of. I liked how they played with the old soundtrack and kind of obscured it in some ways, and made you kind of want that. Like the last boss music like plays with some of the rhythms of some of the final boss music in the original game. It's where it's like you like, it works. It works.
Let's talk about the Sephiroth thing. We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
When he turns into, I think it's called Sephiroth Reborn, when he's like that huge fucking thing. That's from the first game. Like that's the final fight before the God Sephiroth. I was surprised they threw that in right now.
I guess it's an indication. Yeah, it's like when you have like it's like he looks like almost like a Ninja Gaiden boss or something in that from the original Ninja Gaiden games, like Jackie-O or whatever. And that's a great point. Yeah, I guess it's a sign that they're like way off the path. We know that they're off the path from the beginning, even when I loved it that in the Tifa's remembrance of what happened at Nibelheim, Cloud wasn't even there. Like, so it's like all fucked up already. So yeah, of course these things are being drawn in and out of order and stuff. So, and yeah, what else did Gongaga was cool. I do feel like they felt on the design team, although I think the world map lent to this, that they felt on the design team, like we got to kind of reinvent the wheel here every time we go somewhere new. Yeah. I don't know that they need, because if some of it was really annoying, I didn't know I even had I had to use a guide to even just know how to use the air vents to like get to certain things. I'm like, where am I supposed to go? Like, what am I supposed to do? Why does this have to be so annoying? But that wasn't Gongaga though. That was like Cosmo Canyon, I think, or wherever that was, the desert area around Cosmo Canyon.
Okay. Yeah. Corel,
maybe? I guess that would be, yeah. Gongaga was cool. And if you read about them in the game, it's interesting. They were basically they're not affected by anything is like kind of how I read it, that they're like,
well, they had that reactor that blew up and all those people died like right when you arrive.
Right.
There's like all those gravestones.
But isn't it that they were basically unaffected by the Junon or the Shinra Junon War or whatever, that they were kind probably, of like this. If you read the intel, like what little you get like a paragraph of each place or whatever. They talk about that, like that it's kind of this place that has until recently been unaffected and allowed to and they talk about how they're like subsistence farming and all that kind of weird stuff, which is again the kind of intel that I would want more of. I don't want it to be like Control or Alan Wake or something where I'm like reading an entire book, but I do. Yeah. I would have liked more, and maybe there will be more. I don't know.
Yeah. What did you think of the parade, man?
It was cool. I liked recruiting everyone. I didn't get the trophy though. I didn't get a good score.
Oh, you didn't get everyone?
No.
Fuck. Or you didn't get it.
I got everyone, but I didn't get the good. It's like the only one of those random story trophies that I'm missing.
Okay. Damn, dude.
Yeah, but I did dig it. Yeah. It was
the bald bar, dude, where they accidentally go in there and everyone's bald and shit.
Yeah. And
so
Rude's
good.
in there, or whoever's in there. Yeah. Like,
yeah. Like, that's the kind of humor that Final Fantasy 7 has that just somehow works. It's so good.
It's
Man.
very, very silly.
And I love, like,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I would say, like, the 7th Infantry he commands, and how they're all, like, super loyal to him, even though they find out, like, at the end that he's, like, Avalanche, essentially. They all still love him. I saw someone say this, and I really hope it happens, that they are the crew you get on the High Wind in the next game.
That'd be cool.
They are the ones controlling it. I was like, dude, please let me have those guys again.
That'd be sick.
So good. Yeah, what did you think of Roche's end, though? His whole arc and everything.
Yeah, I don't know how melodramatic this whole thing is supposed to feel, or how campy and weird it's supposed to feel. Like, I don't even understand. Like, Roche, everyone's letting them get away constantly. Like, Roche finds them in Under Junon, doesn't he? Like, before anything, like, I think before they even decide that they're going to assassinate the president or whatever. It's like,
yeah.
And so I just don't understand why everyone keeps letting everyone get away with everything, and like, and puts off the conflicts for, he says he wants to fight in like a better arena or whatever. Yeah,
with Roche, it's not about doing anything for Shinra. It's just about him wanting to fight Cloud and under his circumstances. He doesn't care about capturing Cloud for the company or anything like that. He just wants the thrill of the fight with Cloud. And he'll go through any lengths to be in the performance to do that. And ultimately it consumes him, which is kind of crazy. He became a clone. I was like, oh shit.
I think he wants to do more than just fight with Cloud, but
everyone wants to do more with Cloud. Everyone.
I will say that I dug the whole assassination scene. I thought was actually very cinematic, in the sense that, like, they're talking to each other off mic or whatever, and they're having like a face to face, and Yuffie's being kind of introduced to the team at this point, so she's not really even a very known quantity because they save her out in Lower Junon before this, and she kind of pops off, and Rufus thinks they're kind of lying and had set him up and whatever, and it's like, oh man, there's so much tension.
Yeah,
and it gets all fucked because you almost have like a solution in some sense there, at least like in the short to midterm. And it's all blown up. Yeah, I dig that scene a lot. But I didn't do a great job, I guess, with with my soldiers. But they did miss me when I left.
Did you do the quest where you come back later on and they're there too?
I don't think so. No.
Like, it's when they figure out who you are, essentially. They all know. Even like the lady with the red hat. But they let you go.
I feel like I did every quest, but I don't remember that one for some reason. I don't know. Maybe I didn't.
It's like near the end of the game, like when you get the Bronco, when you can like go through the ocean.
Oh, okay.
Also, cool little tease of what's to come. Getting to see the world map like that, actually exploring it. It's going to be. They've said this, like, the biggest challenge is going to be figuring out how to use the High Wind in the world, because the High Wind is fucking big. It's a big ship, man. Yeah,
I wonder. I don't know. I wonder what the next game's even going to be like.
I don't know. It's already written pretty much.
Yeah, I saw that. In terms of, and they did a pretty nice job with it here, I guess, where it's like, what is your level? Like, what is your experience? How are you going to explain your position? Like, this is going to be obviously a game that obviously fewer people are going to play now.
Yeah.
That are going to have higher expectations of where their character has been. Will there even be some sort of importing of characters, which would be cool?
The only thing that they like imported was like some summons. I think you got like a couple. You got like Ifrit and Shiva or something like that. I don't think like levels or gear or anything like that though. Probably just summons.
So yeah, we'll get the new 3 years they want to do it. So maybe 2027. That'll be pretty interesting.
That'll be the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy 7. So
sick.
That seems like the time to do it. Oh man, I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I'm just going. Yeah, do you have anything else you want to?
I know. I'm just like trying to think of like what we didn't talk about that I want to really get your opinion on. Oh yeah, what did you think about the whole scene of Tifa when she falls into the Mako and gets swallowed by the weapon, and like her being in the live stream and seeing everything going on there, like the Whispers fighting each other? It's really like paramount because, later on in part 3, I'm going to talk about, but Tifa is like the one that breaks Cloud out of his like mental state essentially later on down the line, and how Sephiroth the whole game is trying to turn Cloud against Tifa, and he tries to kill Tifa when she's in the weapon actually. So I really loved all that stuff. I loved when he makes Cloud snap, where he goes like full Sephiroth mode, like where he kills all those soldiers. Really great. And at the end with the black materia, where he's fucking losing it, like chasing Aerith. Loved all that shit. So good.
Yeah, I'm not even sure I understand the white materia. Like,
Holy.
What, I'm sorry?
Holy? Yeah, that's what do you mean like why it's going clear and stuff like that?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure 100% either, but I don't know. It's weird because it's all tying to Aerith. Like she has it, then later she shows up later to fight with Cloud against Sephiroth. I don't think it's in her hair then. So it's like it's being used somewhere else I don't know. It's still confusing. There's still a lot of stuff we don't know about that.
Well, the Tifa thing, I got to be honest with you, because, you know, we're obviously so far in bounds of this alternate reality, right? So I was like, holy shit, are they going to kill Tifa? You know, like,
that's what they make you think.
Yeah, and not Aerith, and I was like, that would have been pretty crazy. And so that's kind of where my mind went. Just seeing the weapons, the weapons are notable most from Final Fantasy VII, not for what they are, but that they're optional bosses and that you can go fuck with them. And
some of them, yeah.
So you have to fight one of them, right?
You have to fight some of them, yeah.
And then there's like Emerald Weapon and Ruby weapon and whatever. I don't remember any of this anymore, but and so it's cool to see them as more active.
Those aren't even like those aren't even like the big weapons.
Right.
Those are just like new weird fish like baby weapons. I don't even know what they are.
So it's pretty cool. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because the whole Tifa thing, not only with Cloud's reaction and his responsibility actually for the situation, but that I was like, holy shit, are they going to? I have that Game of Thrones like thing now where I'm like, oh my God, no one's safe now. And it's really not the case. I mean, it's not. Final Fantasy VII Remake is not Game of Thrones. They're not going to like just throw everyone out, but I don't know. That struck me as, I guess what I was looking for was the subversion. And that seemed to be a moment where I was like, there it is. This is going to be some fucked up thing about Tifa dying. And
dude. Yeah. Speaking of dying, dude. So when Aerith dies, what did you think about that whole scene? Like them. So it's strange because like, well, they're going to do part 3, but they skip to the post-burial scene already with everyone sitting by the water. And Cloud is the only one that thinks Aerith is still alive, essentially. And I guess it's going to tie into part 3 of like, I don't know if Cloud's going to get gaslit into thinking he killed Aerith, or if he'll eventually realize what happened and he'll break down, because he doesn't think she's dead right now. And I'm like, why and only he can see the crack in the sky going on right then? It's all very interesting. What do you think about all that stuff?
Yeah, it said to me that, especially the crack in the sky thing or whatever. And obviously I guess it's both what you're saying represents that he's seeing things differently than others, is that the timelines are, I don't know if they're merging or getting mixed up or whatever, in some sense, where people are playing at a more, or not people in these different situations are being played at a more granular level now about their perception of their own reality, as opposed to being these grand things where a character will appear or whatever. Now it's about like who you see, what you see, and all of the rest, and how muddled it's all getting. Maybe in some sort of reference to breaking the determinism up entirely. But with the Aerith thing, I read it in some sense where I'm like, and maybe I'm just reading it wrong, like I'm an idiot or whatever, but it's like, is Cloud perceiving Aerith in a totally different, like things have crossed over in such a sense where Aerith maybe is alive. Like the scene where Sephiroth comes down with a sword, she's not immediately hit. It's like there's
the worlds merge right there, or some worlds do, yeah.
And so it's like, is he like on some sort of different meta plane where, I don't know, maybe that's a stupid interpretation of it, but I don't think that is. I saw it such that I was like, I wonder where will they get her back? Like, will one of the culminative moments of the third game be like Aerith coming back? Aerith being, almost like the fulfillment of what we were saying, like the old rumors of reviving Aerith, like using Game Shark and bring her back, like, but actually like she does come back,
Oh, I could see her coming back, but not staying alive. Like with Zack, I think everyone's going to end up like Zack and Aerith at the end of all this, I think will be dead like they were. I think a lot of it's going to end up back how the first game ended. We're going to end up on a lot of the same spots again. But Cloud and Zach are definitely going to team up against something like that. And I could see Aerith being there in some way. How, I don't really know, though.
Well, in some sort of major way, Brad, it's like the ending, the way Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 or whatever ends will render whether this whole thing has been about fate being unbreakable or fate being breakable. I mean, so they have there's no, the inevitability, like the Calvinistic predestination of it is deeply deterministic. And if they reinforce that, that's totally cool, especially because I think that they've shown that like things can actually change and the order of things can change, but the outcome is the same. But the more freeing solution would be for it to end in a totally different way that would not interfere at all with the original game and make it so that they both happen in some sense, which I think would be kind of
interesting. Yeah,
I don't know. Safer. I mean, it would be the thing you're talking about would be, I think, or not you're talking about, but the first position that we presented, like the deterministic, like nonetheless, here's what happens is the same exact thing, I think is actually more dangerous for the story in some sense.
Yeah, I think just a lot of it is Aerith wanting to protect that and for things to play out a certain way and making sure it happens. I guess in the end, like she has to die kind of thing like that. Zach has to die kind of thing. They want to protect that. Sephiroth's the one who doesn't because he ultimately loses in the end. But we don't know for sure. I don't know. It's hard to say.
So you know Final Fantasy VII more encyclopedically than me. So we end here. Forgotten Capital, Temple of the Ancients. So we're missing.
We're going north.
Yeah, so we're going north. So what are we still?
We got to do the whole. Well, Cloud's got to give Sephiroth, actually real Sephiroth, the black materia when he's like in that crystal thing. So we got to do that. Got to go to the Icicle Inn, you know, all that stuff. We're going to go snowboarding, all that shit. Right, we're going to go to Wutai. That's going to be a big part of part 3. It's going to be probably a lot bigger, a lot more fleshed out. Got to do Rocket Town. We'll probably do some stuff with Vincent and Lucrezia and the waterfall. Obviously, all the weapons we got to do. Fort Condor, we got to go do. But can't think. I don't know. Of course, we're gonna go back to Midgar for Hojo Showdown and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Was we have to, and this is also with Rocket Town and Palmer. Is there has to be? There's no. There we have to resolve. There's a lot to do.
Yeah,
there needs to be resolution with all of the Shinra executives. There needs to be resolution with the Turks. And then, yeah, and then you have to do the weapons, and then all the things you've listed. Maybe, I mean, maybe they have a whole totally different plan.
Yeah, they could have more stuff. I'm sure they'll add more stuff. Like I didn't expect Gilgamesh to be in this game and have a whole quest line, so I have no idea what they got planned.
Very excited for them,
and probably more Zach stuff, whatever's going on with him. Got to finish all that. So yeah, there's a lot to still do. I wonder if part 3 will be even longer than part 2. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah. And I don't want my lasting impression of the game to be first and foremost that I felt like it was too long. That's not a huge deal. Because I'm really so positive about it. I really, really just think it's truly special.
It's like you with The Last of Us Part 2. You think that game's too long?
Definitely. And, I think and relative to each other. In other words, I'm not saying that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth should be 20 hours.
Right. No. Yeah. I see what you're saying. I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. But I want to, because people are like, they're different games and stuff. And I'm like, I
they are different games.
I know. I'm talking about in relation to themselves. Right.
Yeah.
And I often think less is more. And I think that few games are going to be able to benefit from what Final Fantasy VII benefits from, not only in its nostalgia and in how important the original game is and then having this product to spawn off from, but just in how well executed it is, so that you can get away with really superfluous presentation like this and not suffer because people find it endlessly charming. Like I can totally understand how someone would find this. They would want twice as much of it, right? Where it's like, oh, I fucking love this shit. I love this world. I get it. But I just think generally speaking for the coherence of the story and what's most important, I think, about the game having explored so much of it, not as much as you have yet, but most of it, right, is it's all kind of important. You got to make those value judgments for yourself, though, and figure out if you want to spend that much time. But if you do, what you'll certainly get out of it is something incredibly thoughtful. And that's what I really want out of my games more than anything. Not time spent or anything, but impact. And thoughtfulness goes a long way, because I think a lot of things become samey and facsimiles of one another. And I think that this game stands alone. That's why when I was getting even upset when people were like, oh, I was like, it's like a fucking Assassin's Creed game with all the checkboxes. I was like, this is not like a Ubisoft game at all. It's totally a conflation of what the reality of it actually is from what they're just how they're describing it. And what the reality of it is that it's a Square Enix game, and it's dope. So definitely go check it out. You do not want to play Final Fantasy VII and play Final Fantasy VII Remake and play Final Fantasy VII Intergrade. Then you play this, and you're gonna love it.
Play Crisis Core if you got time.
Yeah, Crisis Core as well.
Yeah, if you got time.
I loved it though, dude, and I won't keep you any longer. But
Oh yeah, I mean, we could talk about this for hours still, but yeah, we covered a good amount of ground.
And there's a lot more to say. Like maybe as we marinate more, we can even like
lots to think about.
Yeah, we can open up to the audience. So I'm sure the audience can guide us in many different directions.
They'd be happy to.
So we'll have more to say. And I know a lot of people were eager to hear what I had to say about it. I didn't want to let you guys down. So we're going to end this episode now. I'm going to send this off to Dustin, and hopefully this will go up imminently, so you guys will get it, and we won't be more than 7 or 8 hours late today with our show. I'm sorry about that. Some scheduling snafus behind the scenes too with Dagan and I, now that he has a job and stuff. So we're still working everything out, but appreciate your patience. Brad, thank you for being here on a Saturday. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Any big plans? Just playing Stellar Blade?
Just playing Stellar Blade today. That's what I'm talking about. Relaxing.
Cool.
Gonna have a good time, man. Eat some chicken nuggets or something.
Nice. Like from somewhere, or like just like Tyson?
I think I have some leftover ones from Carl's.
Oh.
Chicken stars.
Cool.
Not the best things in the world, but I'll just eat them. They're here.
Yeah. I love chicken nuggets. Can't go wrong.
Yeah,
what do you eat? What do you put on them?
I like barbecue sauce. I mean, I like a lot of sauces with them. Barbecue, buffalo, ketchup.
Yeah, ketchup.
Whatever.
Ketchup's the answer. Yeah. You know what's good too? Mayonnaise. Chicken.
I don't like mayonnaise, dude.
Okay. Never mind.
Stand down on mayonnaise.
All right. Fair enough. All right. Well, Brad, thank you. Everyone keep an eye out for Brad on Summon Sign each and every week. And of course, he'll appear on the other shows as necessary. He's on the upcoming episode of Constellation, for instance, which is all about Star Wars. So we'll look forward to that. That was fun.
Yes,
that's an episode where that could have gone on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
That could have gone on for 6 hours easily.
So, all right, Brad. Well, be well. Thank you. Thank you all out there again for your love, kindness, and support of patreon.com/laststandmedia and all the things we do over here. We'll see you next time for more. Until then, be well. Goodbye. Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC, and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is conceived by, is written by, and is directed by me, Colin Moriarty. My co-hosts are Chris Raygun Maldonado and Dustin Furman. The show is produced by executive producer Dustin Furman. It's edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by my best friend, Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand's shows, including Sacred Symbols, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we're grateful for your thoughtful and kind contributions to our independent endeavor. Thank you.